right, blessings. Peace, peace. Go ahead and drop something in the chat box that you guys are all grateful for. Let's raise the frequencies on this call. I'm super happy and I'm super grateful to be out here in Jacksonville. Been out in Jacksonville the past couple of days to be able to take in the humidity here in Florida, the swampiness, to be able to take in all of the beauty of opportunity and just everything that we've been doing, and just my awareness and frequencies and operating in a state of gratitude and love over the years, and really planting the seeds over the years and just serving and being a go-giver. I'm super happy and I'm so grateful because there's laws to this universe, and the law of reciprocation is real. What you give out, you're always going to receive back. So your intentions, everything has got to be pure. And, it may not make sense at a lot of points throughout the journey, but I promise you, as long as you just stay focused on where you're going and just continue to evolve and operate in love and gratitude, everything will change and everything will shift. It doesn't matter what you do in life. You could be a farmer and be the most successful, wealthy, and, just wealthy to me and success to me is, quality of life. And so, it's all about operating in that gratitude and that love. I go around the world, and the places I go, the places I love the most is where I feel the most love, where love is offered the most, in forms of and exchanges of just sitting down and eating dinner together and quality dinner time together, or just a conversation that's genuine, or people at, just so many different offerings and just forms of love. And, in these places, these are my favorite places to be in the world. And honestly, probably some of the most rich places in the world in terms of just minerals. It's probably some of the most poor in terms of the economy, right? Because of the governments and the corruption within them, because of how rich these places are, and opportunity and resources. I mean, the resources are insane. And that's why there's, everything's played out and does the way it does, and or has, it may not always be good, but you got to really travel the world, and you got to explore, and you got to do self-research, because what we're taught is always, the truth. But I'm super grateful to be here in Jacksonville once again, with just the level of awareness that we've reached and the things that we're building and operating now. It literally comes in full alignment because there's tons of opportunity out here in Jacksonville. Just the connections alone that we connected with today. My net worth definitely just went up alone just off the connections. And that's really all we're doing now, is just connecting with great people, just connecting with powerful people, and we're making powerful plays. Man, that's really all that's happening now. Like, the things that we were doing was just groundwork, foundational work. I was putting in the hours, going live on YouTube every single day. That you guys don't see me live on YouTube every day anymore. There's certain parts and phases of your life where, things are going to be different. Now we're doing more of the in-person meetups and going to the places in person, and able to actually, see and experience and take in the knowledge of these places and connect with people over in these places. And in these places, there's just tons of opportunity and connection. And so it's a blessing. And so that's what I'm grateful for. Let's see in the chat box, my guy Ruben, he says he's grateful for life. There's so much to be grateful for. So grateful for my Lord. Yes. All right, family. So getting into today's call, I want to be quick. I got a lot of information to cover, so we're gonna hop in right into it. We'll hold the questions till then, but definitely make sure you guys write them down, or you hold that question, because there's gonna be tons of questions that will arise and tons that will even be answered from the training that I'm about to go into. So we're gonna go over business grants and funding opportunities in 2025. So make sure you guys get your notebooks out. I've got a whole training, already piled out. So I'm going to go specifically with 3 states in which we're targeting, when it comes to multifamily and our real estate development: Arizona, Florida, and Texas. Hence why I'm out here in Jacksonville. This is one of our markets as well that we're really, big on. And so Getting into federal programs for small and new businesses, right? I want you guys to write this down. All right, the SBIR. What is the SB as in boy, IR? Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer. And STTR. All right, you guys will have these notes as well too. So if you guys miss some of it, don't feel like you guys have missed out. Let me see. Let me go ahead and record this. There we go. Let's go ahead and record this. All right, perfect. So once again, getting into the federal programs for small and new businesses, we talked about the SBI, SBIR, and STTR, which is a competitive federal grant program that fund R&D focused small businesses across agencies. SBIR, STTR Phase 1 awards typically range from $50,000 to $250,000 for 6 to 12 months, and Phase 2 awards around $750,000 over 2 years. Let's see. These grants provide substantial funding to commercialized innovative technology. So if anybody has a technology, that's something, or just a business plan around it. That's why being able to build out business plans is essential, is really what we're doing and pitching to investors is business plans. So, business plans are needed, and, there's tons of funding. A lot of you guys have a business, but don't have a business plan, right? We've talked about setting up the business plan. You got to set up a business plan to be able to pitch to investors, to where the money's there, right? People will gladly invest into a project that will make a return, but you got to be able to break down the return, show people, go through the due diligence and go through the worst case scenarios. And, like from there, I promise you guys will be able to raise the capital, the transparency, and the things that people don't want to talk about and that people typically want to go over, and maybe think that, oh, they won't think of this, so I won't talk about this. And the investment, is the things when you're transparent with those, that's going to separate you from and allow you to raise billions of dollars, So another one we got is Rural Business Development Grant, right? Rural Business Development Grant. This grant typically ranges from $10,000 to $500,000. Eligibilities are nonprofits, right? We have the setup of the nonprofits, local governments, tribes, and other entities that can apply to fund projects that benefit rural business. Small businesses benefit via technical assistance, training, or revolving loan funds. We've got other federal opportunities as well too. The USDA Young Farmers Grant, right? The State Small Business Claim Credit Initiative, specific towards Arizona. So drop a 1 in the chat box if y'all are from Arizona, do any business in Arizona. Right, there's an Arizona Innovative Challenge. It's a flagship annual business plan competition by the Arizona Commerce Authority. Awards up to $250,000 each to early stage innovative startups. In 2025, AIC ran a fall 2025 cohort focused on SaaS startups and will have spring 2026 cohort. Let's see, winners also get mentoring through ACA. So there's tons. I'm not going to bore you guys out with all of the grants, with each state, but, I'll be able to, everybody within the community will be able to get access. For Florida, I'll make sure though for the recording and the YouTube, I'll be, leave you guys each with at least one from each state. All right, the Florida Trade Grants, that's one place. Another place is Florida High Tech Corridor Matching Grants. These are programs that are supporting R&D partnerships between companies and universities. Right, there's tons of funding out there for you guys. Local community grants. All right, in Tampa, there's the Tampa CRA commercial grants. Okay, let's see. Let's hop into. Okay. So a couple banks that I went ahead and wanted to note for you guys are, of course, when we're talking about on the traditional side of banking, we've got major banks like JP Morgan, we've got Chase, Wells Fargo. I personally won't ever be one to recommend Wells Fargo. I'm actually going through arbitration with them right now currently. I'll definitely make sure to keep you guys updated through that and with the whole process, and we're waiting just for the response from them. I'd sent out back my response, my initial complaint and response, and I'm waiting for the correspondence. And so I'll keep you guys updated with the Wells Fargo arbitration, situation that we have going on. But so I don't recommend ever Wells Fargo, but JP Morgan, yes. With Chase, the Sapphire, I was talking about this last time with you, Ruben, setting up that Sapphire. Chase Sapphire is going to give you the highest limits that I've seen throughout my clients. And so I recommend highly that one goes to with that. And then, of course, the Platinum, the Amex gives you access to also the Priority Card. So the Priority Card gives me access to thousands of lounges worldwide. And as I travel, and I'm somebody that, once again, like I mentioned, I've been able to go many different places. And from there, all these places I go, leveraging the lounges, the connections, finding investors in the lounges. And so for anybody that's, once again, looking for more funding, the funding's there, get into and start paying for convenience, start paying for community and higher level community, and getting around and getting in networks. I promise you guys, there is the funding, and the funding is there. If you guys have what it takes, put yourself in the rooms with the people that can make these things happen. That's what we've been doing lately, and I promise you, things have been shifting. Change. If you can't change the things around you, change the things around you. Write that down. If you can't change the things around you, then change the things around you. And people typically don't change until the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of change. That's when you'll change. Don't let that be, though. I don't know why people have to suffer in order to make change. I'm telling y'all, get into rooms around people that can make these things happen. I promise you, there's tons of people that have tons of money that are looking to deploy this money and disperse it and put it into something that's going to cash flow and bring them back, a return, rather than giving it to Uncle Sam. Promise you guys, there's tons of people that would gladly pour into a nonprofit that has a cause. And do you guys have these things set up? You guys have these things that you say you want to do, but are you doing the things and the foundational things? And what that entails is business plans. Having that business plan. That's why it's essential coming into our mentorship that we set up the business plan questionnaire, and get that, done before you can even get access to the group chats. All right, so local banks, of course, Navy Federal, Truist. We're gonna get into some more banks as well too here soon. Some fintech and online lenders, Blue Vine, On Deck. These are also, so these are lenders that, so Blue Vine, for example, they offer revolving lines of credit up to 250,000. The minimum credit score is a 625. Requirements is 6 months in business and about 100,000 monthly revenue. Blue Vine's line of credit is known for quick funding and a straightforward online process. No collateral needed for most lines. Personal guarantee required. Borrowers with the 630 credit and solid revenue have a chance at approval, whereas traditional banks might decline them. On Deck, as a well-known online small business lender, minimum credit score is 625, 1 year of business, and 100K in annual revenue. On Deck. I want y'all to write that down. On Deck. And then we have Fundbox. I've mentioned Fundbox multiple times. We've got a fintech lender with one of the most lenient credit requirements. Minimum credit 600 FICO, as little as 3 to 6 months in business, and 100,000 annual revenue. Fundbox provides lines of credit, typically up to 150,000. And then we've got Cabbage, right? Kabbage. This is an American Express business blueprint. This is Cabbage, rebranded as Amex Business Blueprint. It was a pioneer in automated lines of credit, typically 640, but they focus heavily on real-time revenues. What I did with this as well too, full transparency, I just went through and I used the AI debt terminator and I scanned it and I had to go through and I had a deep research. And the AI debt terminator that we have, that's a part of our online university, which I just made a part of our online university. It's been active since July. Well, really, I made it active to the public in my mentorship in July. It's been done since about February, but overall, I'm giving access to everybody a part of the university as well at $97. Y'all are getting the university, which y'all been getting. Y'all are getting one call a week with me, our community. The community is the biggest thing. Community is everything. And then outside of that, and really we have an ongoing system now where we've got, a call just about every single day. And I'm grateful to have a team now to be able to help operate all of this. And so it's, if y'all are looking for growth and y'all are ready for that next step and that next stride, definitely make sure that you guys tune in with the university, but really if you guys are fully committed, make sure to tap in with the mentorship, everything, and just the access to the information. Jorge really hasn't been able to even see, Ruben will tell you, Ruben went from a 620 to a 750. He just got over like a couple thousand in funding, and when he came in, a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, he had not, once again below like a 640, I believe, maybe even lower. But he can tell you, the work works is just about following the blueprint. And so we've got things in order and it's all about just getting those done. And as we do, we can make things shake, so some specialty lenders and products. Let's see. All right, this is all like, okay, some lender examples. So we mentioned, let's go over them again real quick. Blue Vine, right, up to 250K, 6 to 12 month draw repayment, fast online processor. On Deck, right, we've got On Deck, we've got Fundbox. Chase, Bank of America, they're going to give you it as well. PayPal and Square, they also have a cash advance where the loan amount based on sale volume, automatic repayments from sales, high fees, but easy to obtain. So you can actually get funding through PayPal and Square. Then we've got Lift Fund, and this is for nonprofits. And then we've got Fundbox. I believe we talked about that, but that's the fintech company. And they're giving up to 150K. So some nonprofit grants, some general grants for nonprofits. We've got AWS Imagine grant. This is an Amazon web servicer. We've got Bank of America Charitable Foundation. Right, there's tons of funding, tons of foundations. All of these corporations got to put together foundations. Any big Fortune 500 or anybody really doing business on a high level has some type of foundation where their billions of dollars are being funneled through their foundations, and it's coming back into the people, and they're able to just pour that money into the community and into helping people. And so there's tons of money out there, tons of grants. I'm gonna be better at providing them for you guys, but we've got them, we've got them. They're here. Geico Philanthropic Foundation, Google Ad Grants, the Kroger Company Foundation, the Lawrence Foundation, Public Welfare Foundation. Walmart has a foundation, Wells Fargo Community Giving, Whole Food Market Foundation, and I'm sure they all align. At least one of them's got to have a line or some brand that you guys do. Look into them and look into their father company and look into the owners, and you guys follow the footsteps. Faith-based organizations. So for everybody with our 508c1a are eligible for many general grants. Additionally, there are specific grant opportunities geared towards religious, organized, and church-led projects in 2025. Who here has their 508c1a set up? Oh no, who has their 508c1a set up? Let's make sure to get some engagement. Let's get the likes up as well here on the YouTube channel. Everybody that's tuned in here on YouTube, just make sure that if you guys have taken away one thing, gone one grant, gone through any of these, this is recorded. You can go back and watch replay, watch this replay, share this replay. Go on YouTube, everybody that's here on Zoom, and share this live out with everybody. You're like, yo, y'all aren't even in the community, and you guys are getting access to this type of information. Check this out. Get people around this information. This is free value that's being provided for the masses. And so let's hop into a couple. Need to make the trust ASAP, brother. It's in the mentorship, the mentorship community, which is with our online course. So we've got VersaCare Foundation grants, a foundation affiliated with the Seventh-day Adventist Church that supports a wide range of church initiatives. Okay, we've got the Baltimore-Washington Conference Congregational Grant. The United Methodist Church's Baltimore-Washington Conference offers grants to its member churches, microgrants to reach new people, historic preservation grants for churches. Various programs help fund restoration of historic church buildings. For example, some states and national fund for sacred places offer grants, typically $5,000 and $50,000 for churches listed on the National Register of Historical Places or historical significance. So they keep the funding around with that. Let's see. Trinity Church Wall Street offers grants to other churches for real estate development. This is the one. Trinity, I'm gonna look into that right now. Trinity Church Wall. No way. That's crazy. I gotta look into that later. So they offer grants to other churches for real estate development that benefits the community. 80,000 to 350,000 or more projects where churches develop their property in an innovative way. Affordable housing, community centers with ministry impact. An inquiry letter of intent is usually okay. So there's other numerous Christian foundations that give nationally: the Mustard Seed Foundation, Lilly Endowments. Faith-based or organization ministries should also look at federal grants, which religious orgs are eligible. Grants for social services to allow faith-based applicants, provided funds aren't usually for inherited religious activities. Churches operating as a 508c1a are typically treated as a 501c public charities by funders. However, they often don't have an IRS determination letter. Some foundation grant applications may ask either the church EIN and a statement of a 508c1a status or a fiscal sponsor. It's true that 508c1a churches are not required to obtain 501c recognition, but private grant makers might still request verification of tax exemption, like inclusion in a group ruling or other proof. Many foundations do consider faith-based applicants, and government grants cannot discriminate against faith-based orgs so long as the project is non-sectarian. It can be advantageous for a church to have a nonprofit arm or at least be listed in official directories to smooth the grant application process. Okay. In summary, nonprofits in 2025 should identify grants that align with their mission and plan ahead of the deadlines, building relationships with funders, preparing a case for support, and enduring compliance with each grant guidelines, especially for faith-based orgs, separating charitable work from explicitory religious activities when required will improve chances of success. Many grants are competitive, but also consider local resources, community foundations, corporate sponsorship programs in your state's nonprofit association. I didn't even know there was a state's nonprofit association. They often publicize additional grant opportunities and can provide assistance in grant writing. So things that will help you guys, once again, community foundations, corporate sponsorship programs. So going out in the community, connecting. I went to the YMCA today out here in Jacksonville, and Blue Cross, right? Boom, right there. Big in the weight room. You see it. Boom, Jacksonville Jaguars. Boom, you see it. Sponsor. You know, who else was there? Everbank. Boom, you know. So these banks will gladly pay millions, to tens to hundreds of millions to have their name on a building, to have their name out. That's branding, right? And so if you build it, they will come. So there's a couple other things I wanted to touch on. Let's see. I mean, just things that are required really when it comes to building out one's business. Let me see. I have another file I want to pull up for you guys. All right, here we go. I got it right here. Let me drop this for y'all right now inside of. Pull it up for everybody that's in the mentorship. I'm gonna drop it in the mentorship chat. There we go. So boom, we've got the business grants and funding opportunities. Okay, leveraging business credit and institutional capital. So business owners often rely solely on property loans for real estate, but business lines of credit or short-term loans can be a game changer. For instance, suppose you identify an underperforming apartment building that renovations could double its NOI. You might get a bank loan for 75% of the purchase, whereas typically with multifamily, you're going to get anywhere from 65 to 75, but need capital for 25% down payment in renovation costs rather than only using personal funds. One could obtain a business line of credit to fund the renovations. And that's the thing as well, is you guys want to start building and getting familiar and building the relationships with these banks, because ultimately at the end of the day, with what you guys are looking to build, you guys are going to need business funding. I believe we've done a call with Take 1X where we've talked about business funding and how business funding is always going to supersede personal funding and personal credit because of the funding that you'll always be able to get on the business credit side. They want to fund, they want to lend these to these businesses. They want businesses in America. They want a booming economy. The more businesses, the better the economy is doing. And so, what I want you guys to understand is they want to give you guys the money. You also got to be in the position to be ready for it when it comes your guys' way. And so, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and we're gonna dive into. We're gonna dive into our couple things that are just essential that many people forget to skip over when they're building out a business. If you guys are looking to even set up an LLC, you guys can do that at the Secretary of the State. So any Secretary of State, you guys can set up your LLC with. Prior to set up an LLC, there are a couple things that are essential to getting set up and getting done. All right, number one, you want to make sure that the name isn't used, it's not trademarked, nobody has that. One place where you guys can do it, a domain is NameCheck, right? Name chk.com. You guys want to have a real brick and mortar address. So you guys can go to Regis or Opus and get a virtual address that's not attached to one's house. And with that address, you guys are now able to, be able to operate more legit and get more funding. And these banks are going to make you guys more qualified. Right, outside of the address, you guys want to have a 1-800 number. You guys also want to have an email that has an @yourwebsite.com. You guys also want to make sure that you have, once you set up the business, you've got a Duns and Bradstreet number. How many of you guys drop an "I love myself" in the chat box if you guys are familiar with a Duns and Bradstreet number? Who here is familiar with the Duns and Bradstreet? Who is, or what's Duns and Bradstreet? Or how many of you guys have ever heard of them? If not, great, because if you guys have a business, it's essential that you get to know Duns and Bradstreet because they are the biggest reporting agency on the business credit side. And so that's who and what these lenders are checking when it comes to giving you funding. They're checking your Duns, they're checking through Duns your paydex score. What is their paydex score? What's, on their consumer report, right? Or not the consumer report, what's on their business report. And Duns and Bradstreet, they reported also, you want to get a Dun and Bradstreet number. It's completely free. You don't have to pay a dime at all through Dun and Bradstreet. And then me and Ruben, we were talking about this earlier about setting up about 3 to 5 of the vendor accounts, net 30 accounts. We'd gotten on a call. He hopped on and we were talking about funding, and he had just gotten a couple cards on the personal side. So he was, asking, how can he get some on the business credit side? And I'm telling him how we can get higher limits on the business credit side and what we're looking to do, with the cards that he has now, because he's had them for about over 3 months. So it's time to increase the limits on those because he's made payments on them. He's actually made them early, and I believe multiple payments even within a month. And with that being said, we're going to go increase it. Once we increase the personal, now we want to go apply for any business credit cards through that bank, because now we've got a higher limit personal credit card to where when we apply on the business credit side, they're going to give us 3 to 4 times what we have on the personal side. Now, if we had a smaller limit on the personal side, that 3 to 4 times they may still give to us, but it's going to be smaller because our limits are smaller on the personal side. So they do go based off that as well. That is, something. So you guys do want to make sure your personal lines of credit are higher limits. And that just goes to show in general. That's why I don't ever recommend secured credit cards, because whenever people do that, they're going to put anything below typically $5,000, which, it makes more sense just to do a secured loan if you are going to put down your money. And if you have money to put down, I recommend you put down a secured loan of $3,000, and pay that off, build your history, show them you can pay off debt. And, from there, they're going to give you 3 to 4 times that funding on the, through a loan. And on the Credit card side, though, you want to make sure that you have the highest limits because they're going to go based off of the limits that you have. And so that's why I recommend specific cards as well, because I know which cards give out higher limits. The aviator card, that the sapphire, right? The venture card, right? The Capital One Venture, right? These are all travel cards. Amex, I can't stress the platinum enough. Mine's 35K. And it's not even so much the limit, it's just like the access that it gives me. It's a blessing. And so build out those net 30s, build out those net 90s. Those are essential to build out your, credit report. You really want, and what you're looking for is at least a 90 paydex score. You want to have at least 2 years in business. You want to have about 15 trade lines. So 15 trade lines. After 15 trade lines report in your account, you can begin to apply for cash cards, Visa, MasterCard, Discover. So the trade lines, the lines of credit are the net 30s, the net 90s. And you don't have to just, there's tons of, tons and tons and tons of vendor accounts, net 30s, net 90s. You can look up, even just with our AI debt terminator, you can look in depth of different ones. But some no PG business credit cards that you guys can even get in another net 30 is also 5-star process. NAV has one, NAV NAV, and they also report. I definitely recommend you guys all set up NAV if you have a business, NAV.com. They have somewhere where you can check your paydex score as well. So that's highly needed. All right, blessings. Any questions? Any questions? I believe we covered a great amount of value today. I want you guys all to be able to consume it. Go through those documents that I dropped inside of the Discord. Any questions though in regards to business credit? Jorge, we'll set up that call Monday. Let's get that trust set up, Ruben. All right, peace and love, you too. Let's get that trust set up.